Good morning, everybody. Hope you had a good weekend. Welcome to the Monday call. We've got a very special call today because we have I think one of the premier coaches in the industry going to be speaking with us today. So that's fantastic. Before we get started, just a little pointer to run you through because we got some information that we don't always get. So about 4 months ago, I talked to you about this particular way to market, and it's a fantastic way to market in that it talks to people about what they're interested in, which is getting high rates of return. Of course, that's all relative with FDIC insurance. So if you look on your screen right now, you'll see a postcard that we put together saying, looking for higher interest rates, how about an FDIC-insured checking account paying 4% interest? Don't wait, call now. So do you think you're going to get any interest on that when you send that out, or use it as a little ad in your paper? You're going to get a lot of interest on that. And the reason we're able to do this now is about once or twice a year, there's a gentleman who actually goes across the country and finds small local banks or banks in each of the different states that are paying high interest rates. And he just came out with another a listing of those because it's very difficult to find those. And some of these banks are paying as high as 4% interest. So you think, well, why do I want to get people in to show them a 4% interest rate at the local bank? Well, the reason being is all of these accounts are kind of like lost leaders for the bank. So guess how much money you can put into these accounts paying 4%? You think you can put a lot of money into them or very little money into them? So they range anywhere from $1,500 accounts all the way up to, at the most, $15,000 accounts. So when somebody comes in, you're able to help them, get them the 4% interest rate by referring them to the bank, maybe make friends with that bank by so doing, and since they can only put in a small amount of money, you then have access to a prospect that's looking for other avenues for the rest of their money. So if you need or would like to look at this postcard, email us at support@5qgroup.com. We'll get you the postcard, and we'll also get you the listing of all the banks that this gentleman came up with that are paying high interest rates. So any questions on that before we get started? I see none. Okay, so that's just a little pointer for you to use for the next month or two as we wait for the trip to roll out. So we are very privileged, or I am very privileged to have Joe Lucas talking to us today. I've worked with Joe for about, 12 years, I believe, and I've had numerous advisors that have coached who also worked with Joe. So where I'm a coach of helping you with techniques and scripts and selling abilities, Joe, I think, his coaching is even more important than what mine is, because even if you have the best skills in the world, if you don't apply those skills appropriately, you're just not going to go anywhere. I mean, the best idea in the world that's never implemented is never going to work. The most skilled person in the world who doesn't use those skills is not going to be successful. And what Joe does, he's a fantastic coach that gets advisors' heads on straight and keeps them focused on what they're supposed to be focused on, and kind of keeps the blinders on so they're not getting distracted by things that can destroy a business. So I just kind of want to walk through a few of Joe's awards and things like that, or basically his background. So he's been doing this for 20 years, coaching advisors for 20 years. He's got over 20,000 hours coaching advisors, which I think is incredible. So he's been the author of the book Practice Power, 12 Steps to Take Your Business to the Next Level. He frequently contributes to industry websites such as Horse's Mouth, Producers Webs, and lots of other ones. In 2009, Joe was created the Practice Power member-only website. And guys, this is a fantastic website. Hopefully, if he doesn't talk about it, I'll make sure he does, because I think it's a great resource for you guys to use, because it has hundreds of hours of coaching and e-learnings and tools to track your goals and activities. Is a fantastic website to utilize. Each business day, he sends out a short, very short, keeps it short and to the point video called Practice Power Daily Minute Coaching Video, and that's watched by over 5,000 advisors worldwide. In 2000, he was named as one of the industry's top troubleshooters by Registered Rep Magazine, and in this year, he was just, I think about a month ago, awarded by both Registered Rep Magazine and Wealth Management as one of the top 4 coaches in the entire financial service industry, which, I mean, that's incredible. He's also the only coach in the industry, and I think this is so important, guys. Listen to this. He is the only coach in the industry that gets compensated based on actual results. And he offers a 100% guarantee on his coaching work. There's no risk to working with Joe. And we've actually got a couple of advisors on the system that do work with Joe, and they swear by him. They swear by him. So please pay attention, and most important, hopefully he can get you to actually implement some of the things he's going to talk about today, because it can really make a difference in your practice going into 2013. So with that, I welcome Joe Lucas to the call.
Thank you, Mike. Good morning, everyone. Hopefully everybody had a great weekend also. Hey, Mike, thanks for the introduction. I would never say that about myself, so it's always good to have somebody else say that for me. Today, what we're going to do in the next 45 minutes or so is, because of the time of year, I want to walk everybody through what I consider to be the right way to create a business plan and the business planning process. So a couple weeks ago, I had a bunch of clients in Orlando, Florida. We spent 3 days doing this process, and when we wrap up the call today, I'm going to give you an opportunity to actually create that same process for yourself from wherever you are. But what I want to do, and like Mike said, is basically talk about why do a plan? Why do we need a plan? And look, what I have found 20 some odd years of doing what I do is, I would say 99 out of 100 business plans that I actually get a chance to review, if somebody actually has one, it doesn't do it. What I believe as a financial advisor, the roles that all of you have, in order to kind of create that next level of success, this is a business of beliefs, habits, and behaviors. Okay, beliefs, habits, and behaviors. And what we got to realize is, and this is maybe this aha moment for some of you, that getting smarter is not your challenge. It's not about getting brighter. It's about implementation. It's about execution. And so if you have a plan, it needs to be one that you can sit there and say, yeah, I can do it. So let's talk about the different reasons why we want to do some planning. Well, first off, and here's one of the first differentials as far as my approach to things. Look, we're not General Motors. We're not AT&T. We're not going to the bank for a loan. What we want to do is have a plan that really, creates what I call balance. It balances out your life plan and your business plan. It's a hybrid planning process. Okay. What most advisors do is kind of think about their business in sort of this abstract way, and what you have to recognize is that you're the business. And, your flaws, your bad habits, your negative beliefs, bad behaviors, if you will, sabotage your success. And what we want to do is look at everything, and this has been one of my distinctions, is I want to know, or I want to have you create, what is your ideal life? How much money do you want to earn? How do you want to live? Where do you want to live? How do you want to be spending your days? What's your bucket list? So we have you create all those things. Because at the end of the day, the only way that I found for somebody to truly build the business that they want is it has to be compelling. It cannot be about just making a little bit more money, or in a lot of cases, trying to survive. If you create a survival-based business plan, then that's what you're going to do. If you come into your process with scarcity, you're going to create scarcity for yourself. So what I want to do is get you outside of that and start thinking again. Look, a lot of you, and I just, dealing with who I deal with, let's face it, we've all had our failures. And what I find is critically important is to say, look, you know what, the past is the past, and what can we do going forward? So those are some things we want to do. We want to give you that combination business and life plan. The other part is clarity. So many times I'll read something, I'll say, well, I want to do more business next year. I want more clients. I want more and more and more, and, that's not specific enough. We need to get it down to where you can sit there and say, how many new households? In our world here, how much premium? Be very, very clear on what we're going to do. Clarity is key, because if you don't have clarity, you cannot then break it down into, okay, what has to get done every month? What has to get done every day? It's ambiguous, and we can't have that. And what happens is, just for everybody to be clear, when you're not clear on what you have to get done every day, guess what? In this world, it's easy to go sideways. Oh, let's do some research. Let's check on what's going on Bloomberg. Let's do this. Let's do that. And we end up playing office all day and not driving for our results. So clarity in what you want is absolutely critical in this process. The next element like I said, is when you have the plan and it makes sense to you and you're buying into it, it then becomes a lot easier to do monthly, weekly, and daily game plans. The one thing I always ask them when somebody comes into me to evaluate them, if it would be good to work together, is I always ask them a question. Look, what do you need to do every day to be successful? And 99 times out of 100, I give vagueness. Well, I got to talk to more people. I got to do more appointments. I've got to ask for referrals. All this stuff. And there's a lack of clarity, which means that you cannot have any accountability to that. Vagueness kills in our business, and that's what we need to remember. So the plan that we're going to have you put together, hopefully, is going to be one that's going to allow you to break it down into, here's what I've got to do. Like I call it the one-page monthly game plan. And then, we break it down into, really several different things every day we need to do. And look, guys, the bottom line, there's 3 things we do. We talk to people, we help people, we ask for referrals, we meet with people. I mean, other than that, everything else becomes secondary. This is the prime function of what we do. And if we're not doing enough of that, well, that's where we get into challenges. So that's why we want to start putting a plan together. Is it's a living document. It's something where, hey, you don't put it together once and you look at it at the end of the year and see how you did. It's something truly that we're going to review each and every day, which I'll get into a little bit later. Now, why don't most of you do what you know you need to do? So why don't advisors execute the proper process? A couple different reasons. Number one, most of you probably have a negative anchor and association to doing business plans. A couple different things. Either number one, your boss, your manager, in your other life, when you were at maybe a different firm or whatever, they had you do plans and they were meaningless to you. Bunch of numbers, basically it was just like a spreadsheet and backing into some numbers. That's not going to get you excited each and every morning. The other possibility is you put some plans together. Maybe you did some goals. Maybe you thought you put together a decent plan, but it didn't happen for you. So in other words, you didn't achieve your goals. And so it became a source of pain. And what I find a lot of times with advisors who maybe do have a decent plan, if they're not tracking on their numbers, they're not tracking on their goals, every time they review it, it becomes a source of pain, and we as human beings want to move away from that. So what they'll tend to do is file it away and never look at it again until around this time of year. And again, negative anchors and negative associations. Now, what you've got to say to yourself as you kind of walk into 2013 here is, say, okay, what am I going to do different? Because, for a lot of you, what I find is it's not about maybe doing marginally better here or there. It's about really having a breakthrough. And so what you want to be able to do is really get rid of those negative anchors and associations and think, hey, look, I've got 2013, I've got the rest of my career left. And look, I don't care if you're 20, I don't care if you're 20 years old or 80 years old, you have 100% of your life left. And that's what you need to do, is plan for it as much as you can, regardless of the past. Next element is I find that a lot of times it's too analytical. It'll break down into new households, it'll break down into product mix, it'll break down into premium and all that jazz, which is okay. I mean, I'm not saying it does not have to be part of it. But we miss the big picture, which is why. One of the things that our industry beats into us from day one is be that $1 million producer or top of the table producer and things like that. And look, for a lot of you, that's not really your goal. You make $500,000 a year, you have a certain lifestyle, right? And you're happy as a clam. But the key thing here is that if we get too numbers-based, numbers are not emotional. And one of the things I want to share, and this is where some of you may question this a little bit, is your planning process and your business plan has to be what we call emotional-based. It's got to, when you read it, it's got to make you feel a certain way, give you certain states, get you motivated. One of the most powerful things that we do, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, is I have you create, there's a whole module on just your ideal life and lifestyle. Really having you articulate how do you want to live, where, your bucket list, all those elements. And what I have found, and this is really the second or third year we're using that module, if done properly, it's the most powerful motivational reading you can do, because it's your story that you want to create. It's not about reading somebody else's life. It's about reading the life that you want to create. Think about starting each and every day with a 5-minute read on what you want to create. It's going to really get you motivated and inspired to go do things, not just about, I've got to go survive and make some money and things like that. So we want to get away from the numbers to a certain degree and not make it a spreadsheet. Again, we're not going to the bank for a loan. This has got to be business plans. The way I construct them are the most motivating document you'll ever read in your entire business career because, again, it's your story. Next. Oh, next. The other element that we have a challenge with, again, is it does not translate down into a daily game plan. Every goal that you set, ideally, needs to be broken down monthly, if not into daily. So in terms of number of contacts, number of referral requests, number of meetings, whatever it is that's going to be the recipe for you, we want to make sure we can break it down. You know, some of you, for example, just walking around, as I do, around the country to speak, there's a certain percentage of you, quite frankly, your health is sabotaging your success. You don't have energy, and I'll tell you, Mike's meeting process is about energy. You can't go into an appointment at half speed. You got to be emotionally engaged with people, and that requires massive amounts of physical energy. But a lot of you, quite frankly, you're barely able to get out of bed in the morning. So again, how do we break that down to daily? Well, what are you going to do to be healthy today? What are you going to eat? What are you going to do different? You're going to exercise. Again, breaking it down to the daily, very, very important. Then the other element, quite frankly, and here's a big one, is accountability or lack thereof. Okay. Now I know some of you probably sit there and say, "Hey, I can hold myself accountable," and that's fine if you believe that. But what I find, 9 out of 10 guys, quite frankly, it's a dangerous game to play. And look, I'm not saying I'm the coach for everybody on this call, but what I am saying is go find somebody that you can connect with, relate with, resonate with, and make sure they hold you accountable to your goals. And that's what needs to be done here. So a lack of accountability is a key, all the time I hear it, "Hey, do you have a business plan if I'm evaluating somebody?" And they'll say, "Yeah." I say, "Can you send it to me?" Sometimes they can't even find it. And then I'll ask the question if I do get it, "Well, when's the last time you read it?" "Oh, I read it months ago or 6 months ago." And so there's nothing. So again, why go through the process of putting down some goals or doing a really solid planning process is, at the end of the day, if you're just not going to look at it, it makes no sense to me. Okay, now, so those are some of the challenges. Let's talk about what the process needs to look like, in my opinion, what I like to do here. So, first thing, environments matter. You never, ever, ever do your plan in your office. It's, first off, you're going to be distracted. You're going to be disrupted. I want you to go to your happy place. Now, where's happy places in my experiences? Well, for 3 years in a row, we actually went to Costa Rica. We did it there. We just did one in Orlando, Florida. So my point to you is this. Go somewhere. Now, you don't have to get on an airplane, but go somewhere that you feel good. Now, none of my clients did not travel this year to do their plan, but here's what they're doing for examples. A couple of them are actually going to rent a hotel room for 2 days and work on it there. A couple are going to go to the library every morning and spend a couple hours working on it. Starbucks, Panera, wherever you want to go that feels good. Now, if you have a home office or an area in your home that really feels good to you, maybe some by a fireplace or an outdoor deck or porch, whatever it is that you feel good around, that's where you want to do it. You want to do it in your feel-good place, never, ever, ever in the office. All right, so that's rule number one. Environments matter. Next, time. Now, my process is, and I'll just share with everybody how we did it in Orlando, Florida. We worked Thursday afternoon for about 5 hours. We did Friday morning for about 5 hours, and we did Saturday morning for about 5 hours. So you can figure 15 hours. Now, before some of you explode here in terms of the timelines, remember that's group dynamic. Your plan should probably take you anywhere from 5 to 10 hours. Depending on, again, how long-winded you are and how much you want to write and things like that. But if you're going to sit here and say, "Hey, I'm going to take an hour and whip together something for next year," well, that's exactly the result you're going to get. So time does matter. Now, you could do one or two different ways. You could, take chunks of time, like 4 or 5 hours, and bang it out. Or what some of my other clients are doing is they're going to take the first hour to hour and a half on their strategic break between Christmas and New Year's and work on it then. You've got to decide how you like to do things. Are you better off kind of just immersing yourself in a long process, or you're better off biting it off into little bite size. That's up to you. But you all know your what I call learning styles in terms of how you like to get information. You've got to take a look at it that way. Next, the other element is, hey, we have to do a review and recap of 2012. So we have to take a look at a post-mortem, if you will, right? And how do we do? How do we do versus our goals for 2012? But more importantly, what I find is critical is what was my behavior like? So in other words, where did I sabotage myself? Did I not have a daily game plan? Did I come in the office a little too late? Did I, sabotage my success because I just don't have energy? Did I not ask for referrals? Did I not execute? You want to look at your behaviors. Most of us as an industry focus in on the numbers, but the numbers are a result of behaviors. And this is what I'm going to try to drive to everybody this morning, is you've got to really take a look at that. What I find when I'm working with a client, I don't care if they're a new client or if somebody's with me 10, 12, 15 years, is we always are checking in on their behaviors, and we're always checking in on their habits, okay? Because that's what drives. Today, here's the thing. Your habits today, your behaviors today, and your beliefs today will affect your checkbook in 90 days. And what a lot of people want to do is they want to change the result, but what you need to recognize is in order to change the result, you need to change you. And that's for a lot of people, in this industry, because let's face it, we have an ego-oriented industry. That's tough sled. That's a real tough sled, sit there and look in the mirror and say, you know what, I'm the problem. I just did a presentation, and for those of you who are on the website, my website, you can see it up there. What Mike has created at 5Q is a tremendous race car. It just goes fast, man. It will win races for you. But if you, the driver, are flawed, if you have challenges, limiting beliefs, issues, bad habits, I don't care how good of a car Mike builds in terms of a success vehicle, you guys will crash it or not drive it the way it needs to be driven. Poor driver negates great cars. A great driver can actually deal with a mediocre car and still be effective. So what Mike has is a great car for you guys. What most of you have are driver issues, and you need to remember that. So again, we want to examine our results, take a look at that. And again, I want to focus in on your morning rituals, your daily game plans, your mindsets, your attitudes, your beliefs. We take a look at all those things as part of our benchmarking process, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to be the differential for you. It's not about, saying to yourself, oh, I'm just going to do better next year, or I love this word, I'm just going to get more focused and disciplined. Nice idea, but what are the habits that kind of make you undisciplined, unfocused? You need to take a look at those. So current results matter. Next, once we're done with that process, then that's it. Okay, here's where we failed, and look, we operate in a failure-based industry. You have to fail. I was talking to one of my clients in Orlando a couple weeks ago, and he's so afraid to fail, he can't succeed. He's so worried about having, that small percentage of people that just come out to his workshop to grab a bite or whatever it is, and he's so worried about them, he's missing the bigger picture on everybody else. And you've got to recognize that, look, and if you look at all your stats, you're always going to fail more than you succeed. Whether it's appointments, people that attend workshops, whatever it is, you're always going to fail more, and yet this industry tries to avoid that at all costs. And really, it's one of the keys to success is to fail as much as possible within reason. All right? So again, it's not about the past, but going forward. Now, what are the elements of a plan? As I just said, we're going to do a review and recap of the current year. That's one module. Take you an hour to 2 hours if you do it right. But you need to really, and we look at a couple different things. We look at your economic results. We look at, your daily game plan, how good you do there, morning ritual, your selling ability, your influence ability. You grade yourself out on these things, because in order for you to improve your results next year, guess what? You have to improve you. So we need to take a look at it and say, what are the areas that we did not do a good job at? Health and energy. I've had clients put $100,000 to $250,000 extra income in their pocket in 2 years by losing 50 pounds and getting to the gym and getting healthy and having energy in their meeting process, right? Instead of just going through the numbers. And look, scripting is great. Nothing wrong with that. But again, a great process in scripting and terminologies and questions, no energy, cancels it out. I can take somebody with a lot of natural energy, feeling good, and may not be the best person in terms of memorizing, scripting, and stuff like that, but they're passionate, they're enthusiastic, they can influence a human being in that reading process, because you know why? They have tons of emotional energy, tons of it. This is not part of this presentation, but I just want to make a comment to everybody here. As an industry, we put way too much emphasis on what I call intellectual capital, learning, scripting, designations, processes. What's holding most of you back is not this quest for more knowledge. What you are is you're emotionally capital deficient. Your emotional capital, your beliefs, what you think of yourself, what you think you're capable of doing. The person that you're sitting with, the prospect, they're an emotional-based buyer. Yet you can't get into that space with them because you don't have the gas in your tank physically, or you're mentally fried and burnt out. Guess what? You're going through the motions. And that's why for a lot of you, you don't have the success that you want. It's not because Mike doesn't have a good process here. It's because there's a flaw in the driver, you, and that's what you need to take a look at over the next couple of weeks. What am I going to do different? So again, we do a review and recap of the current year. The next thing, and I talked a little bit about this is the next module we do, which is what I call creating an ideal life and lifestyle. I truly believe that being a financial advisor is the ultimate lifestyle vehicle because time does not equal money here. It's all about results. It's all about output, all right? And reality is that, show me another profession, quite frankly, where you could be a highly dysfunctional human being, which most of you are, and still make 6 figures a year. Show me where you can do that. Show me where you can, take 16, 18 weeks off a year and make $250,000, $500,000 net, if not more. Not too many opportunities out there like this. And the problem, though, we have as an industry is we've gotten into what I call scarcity-based planning. Well, let me figure out how much money I want to make, how much my bills are, and let me add 10 or 20% on top of that, and that's kind of that's what I need to live. Well, if that's what you design, then that's what you're going to go create. And my philosophy is, let's get outside of that box that we built and really think about what's possible. Ideal life. What's your bucket list? Where do you want to go? How many weeks do you want to take off? What are some of the things you want to enjoy? And we have you write these all down. We have you create your compelling story that you want to create in the future. So ideal life and lifestyle, very, very important. Next element. What are your values, beliefs, and behaviors? Now, part 1 is, okay, here's what I want to create. Part 2 is, here's why I don't have it yet. So what are you moving towards the moving away values? So values in terms of emotions. What are some of the emotions you want to feel, experience? What are some of the emotions you don't want to feel? And in our world, the emotions that we tend not to want to feel, quite frankly, are rejection and failure. Most advisors will do anything to stay away from that. But the reality is you've got to embrace them because they're part of the recipe. So we have you take a look at that. We have you take a look at your beliefs. Maybe you have some challenges. Maybe you don't believe you deserve to be successful, or you're not good at what you do. You kind of have that person on your left shoulder kind of telling you all the bad things that you're not good at doing, or what you don't deserve, and things like that. And those are some things we need to really take a look at. What's holding you back? And then the last element are, again, your behaviors. Do you sleep in too much? Do you eat the wrong food? Do you not hit the gym? Do you not plan? Do you not do a daily game plan? All those things that sabotage your success, your behaviors, you need to take a look at. This is a behavioral-based business, and that's where most guys don't get. They think it's all about, again, intellectual capital. It's primarily driven by behaviors, your behaviors. So we take a look at that. That's the next module. Next element is, and this is very important. This is something I actually did years and years and years ago, and I got away from it for literally about 20 years. Just the last 3 or 4 years I brought this back, is we have you, or I can't make you, but I encourage you to create a vision board. Now, what is a vision board? A vision board is in essence a visual representation of your ideal life and lifestyle. So if you want to have a certain house, you get a picture of a house. Drive a certain car, get a picture of that. Want to live a certain place, get pictures. Now, I use, and we're not going to get into it here because of time, but I use a program called Evernote, and I web clip different images, and I have them in my Evernote vision board notebook. And every morning, as part of my morning ritual, again, and most of my clients, not all my clients, same thing, as part of their morning ritual, they're going to go ahead and look at their vision board for about a minute or two and get associated to what they want to create. Again, we as human beings we tend to be very much visual learners, and we get impacted and influenced by visual representations, pictures, in other words, pictures. And what we want to do is have you create what you want visually. So it's just not about writing down, driving a Mercedes, or living in a certain house, or vacationing here. Go get the photos. Go get the images. Watch it, feel it, experience it. And that's really a key thing. It really drives your behavior in a better way. So we're going to have you create a vision board. Next element, goal setting. Now, when I say goal setting, most people sit there and say, oh, no problem. I sit down with a piece of paper, I write things out, and there they are. Well, there's a lot more to that, okay? And here's what I mean by that. Why do you want it? Tell me why you want what you want. So if somebody says to me, I want to increase my income by 25%, so I want to go from, oh, I don't know, from 400,000 to 500,000 next year, I'm going to say, okay, great. What does $100,000 represent to you? Why is it a must? What is that going to do for you? How does it help? How does it give you your ideal life and lifestyle? What does it do for you, right? So it's not just about coming up with a bunch of numbers, but the whys, the compelling reasons. That's a key element of coming up and doing the goal-setting workshop. Next piece, key. Remember what I said earlier about when we kind of look at the prior year and we look at your flaws, right? Your behaviors, right? Your bad habits, all that stuff. Well, there's a module in my process we call it the personal development game plan. It's like a page or two. And what we have you do is say, okay, how am I going to get to be a better me this year? So what do I need? Do I need to improve my health? Do I need to get more organized? What do I need to? Do I need to go get a coach for accountability? What do I need? And maybe there's maybe there are some technical things. Maybe there's a designation you want to go get. Or maybe you just need to learn how to use that iPhone, an iPad that you got, and you use 10% of it, right? Whatever you need to do, we have it there. Now, as a rule, I believe that every advisor should take between 5 and 10% of their income, 5 to 10% of their income, and put in what I call a personal development budget. Make it a line item when you do your budgeting. And here's the cool thing. Again, 5 or 10% or somewhere in between. Well, what do you do with that? Well, that's where you go hire the coach. That's where you go hire the personal trainer. That's where you pay for your seminars with, your books, your tapes, your audio programs, your training. And here's the cool thing. The more successful you become, the bigger that 5 or 10% become in terms of economically. It allows you to do some really cool things. Imagine having a personal development budget of $50,000. What resources could you deploy for that? Could you get a personal trainer? Could you get a coach? Maybe get a nutritionist, a chef, maybe a personal assistant to help you. What could you do to make you a better you? So that's what we want to do. That's part of the planning process. Again, you are the business, and for a lot of people that go through my process, this is the most important piece that they do, is they say, yeah, here's what I need to do to get better. And by the way, in order for your business results to improve, you must improve as a human being. Do not sit there and say to yourself, well, all I need my business to do is X, and then we're good. No, no, no. What has to happen is you have to evolve and you have to elevate your own standards first. Then your business/economics follow right along behind it. It's not the other way around. Next element, we have you pick. I don't like people, and this is where I've changed over the last several years. I used to be the one that said, okay, let's come up with some personal goals, some business goals, some personal development goals, some contribution goals, some fun goals, toys, and I have people having 15, 12, 18 goals out there, and we're just pushing on all these strings, and that did not work. So now what I look to do is say no more than 5 major goals at a time, okay, that we're going to look at. Because I find if I can keep things, again, assuming you have all your fingers, if I can keep somebody focused on maybe 5 things or something they can look at in their hand, 5 fingers, the focus is there, and then we push on those. So I don't like more than 5 things out there at any given time. Now, there might be some sub-goals and some to-dos and tasking and things like that on there, but I don't want anything, I call them level 1s. I don't want any more than 5 major goals at a time on any board because, again, I think we get easily distracted. Okay, so top goals, and then here's the key thing. What has to happen? The action plan. Okay, what behavior do we need to do? What action do we need to take? Okay, what has to happen in there? So again, key element of that. Next piece is our business development, our marketing plan. So again, another deliverable is, okay, what's the marketing plan look like? So in that case, how many workshops are we doing? How many client events are we doing? What's our drip program look like? What's our website look like? What's our social media strategy? And then whatever else you guys do, whether you do centers of influence, other things like that, but we have you come up with, again, what are your marketing legs? What are you going to develop? Pretty much it's going to be through 5Q here, what we do. But again, like Mike said, what's the implementation? What's the execution like? Because at the end of the day, concepts are cheap. Action means everything. So you've got to take a look and say, okay, what's my marketing calendar? What's going to go on in January, February, March? Lay it out, put it out there. Critical. So again, we have you develop that couple-page marketing plan for 2013. Next element, critical element, your morning success ritual. Or what do you do the first, let's say, hour of each day? And when I say hour, I don't mean the first hour while you're in the office, but the first hour when your eyes open up and you become conscious again. What do you do in that hour? So we're going to have you create that ritual. I've got modules on this stuff. And by the way, if you all want to if somebody's looking to really elevate what they're doing, the first habit you want to get into is controlling the first hour of the day. What you put in it, your mental diet, so no news, no TV, no negativity. Ideally, I'd have you review your business plan. I have you watch my morning video that I kick out at 4 a.m. every day, Eastern. I'd have you look at your monthly game plan. I'd have you do some other kind of, what I call mental diet stuff. So whether it's a YouTube video, TED, reading a motivational book, something inspirational. Just like any nutritionist will say to you, the most important meal of the day is the first meal of the day, how you feel your body. But what you put in your mind the first hour sets the tone for the entire day. So feel free to go ahead and and read the paper and Fox News or CNBC and all that jazz, and you wonder why you're less than excited, and you wonder why you're less than enthusiastic about what you're doing. Well, think about what you just ate emotionally, mentally, right? And you wonder why you can't get yourself to take action. Now, I'm not saying you can be uninformed, but the first hour, be uninformed. Focus on what you want to do, what you can control, your world, your life. So we have you create that morning ritual, very critical. Okay. Next element of the planning process, we're going to put together what I call the elements of a daily game plan. So kind of in a typical day, what has to happen for you? How many contacts? How many meetings are we setting? What are some of the habits and behaviors that we're going to need consistently each and every day in our business day or / tactical day in order to go ahead and do that. So again, that's part of the plan. Because if you can't break down your top goals into what I have to do every day, guess what? It's not going to happen. And for some of you, and the example I use, just because it's easy to use, is maybe in the past you've put down, I want to go and get 25 referrals next year, or 50 referrals, or 10 referrals, whatever it is. But what is the daily behavior? And if you can't come up with that daily behavior, how are you going to hold yourself accountable to it? How do you track it? How do you do something with it? So what we're going to have you do is create that daily game plan where maybe if we're using referrals as an example, maybe we're going to have you open up your mouth once or twice a day and just kind of mention it to people. Maybe mention your next workshop, whatever. But you're going to have a habit associated with that you're going to track every day. And that's what has to happen. Again, it's great having goals, but if you can't break them down to a daily game plan, who cares? It's not going to work. Okay, so a couple of things real quick, and then we're going to go ahead and I think we're going to do some Q&A, if that's okay with everybody, for the next few minutes. So what Mike said earlier about me creating this website, so practicepower.net. And by the way, it's the first year we're doing this, and it worked beautifully in Orlando. We had 25 people kind of stress test this out as a group. The entire business planning process, all 8 modules, are up on practicepower.net. Okay. So it's there for you. You can access it, the same process for everybody, amongst a ton of other stuff. But let's just talk business planning here. There's a website. Here's the deal. Coupon code 5Q, 40% discount, so $300 for annuals, $30 a month for membership. Now, when I told Mike that how cheap it was, he laughed at me a little bit and said I should be charging 10 times more, but that's okay. So here's my value proposition to everybody here. If you're willing to put $1 up a day, I'll give you a business planning process that will actually work for you guys. A daily game plan process, some morning success ritual template builders, and I'll pop in on you every morning with a couple of minute video to keep you going forward in 2013. It's a very simple process. Now, if you don't want to use, here's the other thing which is not part of this slide here. If you just go to the website today and register, again, doing either annual or monthly, obviously the annual is $25 a month, even better. You don't have to use a coupon code. If you just look at the shopping cart, you'll see the pricing's already in there. We've coded it just for today until I think 8 or 9 o'clock tonight. So all the pricing's locked in at this $30 and $300 rate. Mike, I don't like to promote myself any more than that, so I'd like to take some questions if somebody has some questions.
Super. Guys, can I just make a point here that $300 a year, if having somebody or access to somebody who's going to keep you on track, $300 is a pittance in the industry we're in. Like, I agree with Joe. We're in the unbelievably best industry there is. I'm trying to convince my son, who's a senior in high school, to go in this industry, because where can you make the kind of money we make with the override that we get? There's just no other business where we can do this. So to have access to somebody like Joe who's going to keep us on track for $300 a year or $30 a month is an unbelievable value. So, Missy, do we have any questions coming in? So, guys, do you have any questions, any concerns, any how-tos that you'd like to hit Joe with?
Nothing's coming so far, but we'll just give them just a moment here. They may be typing.
So, well, sometimes, yep. Maybe you did too good a job, Joe.
We'll see.
Okay.
All right.
Well, we can let everybody go early then. So, Joe, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you taking the time to do this. Guys, please check out his website. As you know, I've never had anybody on here pushing a product before. I don't endorse anybody, but Joe is the one person I do endorse. So that I hope that goes a long way to having you check him out. Because this, guys, I don't care how skilled you are, if you don't do the things that Joe's talking about today, those skills will get you nowhere. But doing the kind of things that he's talking about, that's what's going to make you a lot of money in 2013.
And I do have just one thing that popped in, and I think it's important to note. We do have, as Mike mentioned earlier, one of Joe's coaching clients is actually on this call, and he just said, testimony for Joe. I was at the business planning last week and worked with Joe for the past 2.5 years. He's worth the time and money.
And then Rick's asking, Joe, do you have any books you recommend?
I mean, from a personal development standpoint, it's sort of like food. A couple of books that I've read that I really, really like. I'm always going to say "Awaken the Giant Within" by Tony Robbins. That's always been a good book. Cialdini's book "Influence." I think if you're in this business, you've got to read Cialdini and really kind of get your mind around that. The other book I just read, I don't know the author's name, was Rebounders. It was a book on failure, which is always interesting because we always tend to look at successful people as just successful people, and when you kind of look under the hood there, you realize that their success was based upon a lot of their failures, but nobody talks about those. So that's great to have that. I'm trying to think what else. Oh, The 4-Hour Work Week is a bit of an interesting read, but it really kind of shapes some of my current thinking around the idea of lifestyle design and things like that. And I really took a lot of Tim Ferriss's principles and brought them into this industry, and they work, which is really cool. What I've always said around books and tapes and CDs and MP3s and all that jazz is the beautiful thing about the internet today is you can go ahead and sample things like going to a buffet or a tasting. And I may like Zig Ziglar. Somebody may think he's crazy. So personal development reading and kind of mental diet material is sort of like what you like in food. Everybody's got a little different taste on things or different things they like and don't like. I would just recommend go to Amazon, grab a chapter of a book, and drop it on your Kindle or your iPad, see if you like it. Audible.com, books on MP3, stuff like that. One of the most powerful places you can go get motivational material, believe it or not, is YouTube. It's not just about stupid cat tricks and stuff like that, but if you Google success, motivation, Tony Robbins, Stephen Covey, you take any of your authors that you really, really like, I guarantee you there's probably 10 to 20,000 hours of video on just motivational stuff. So there's no excuses not to find, really, really good things to do.
And the author name for Influence, again, Michael, it's Robert Cialdini.
Cialdini, yes.
Yep. Cialdini. Cialdini. And everything that we do at 5Q revolves around Cialdini's work because he is the world's foremost expert on influence in society today. So any other questions for Joe? He's done a great job, but any questions before we let him go? Excellent. Well, we're getting a lot of thanks, Joe, so I greatly appreciate it, and everybody on the call does appreciate it as well.
All right, like I said, just come on in, join Practice Power, and get you. If you just do the business plan, it's worth 10 times what your investment's going to be. If you just do the plan for next year.
Yep, I totally agree. One more question here. Somebody says, what workout routine do you recommend?
Oh, great question. I mean, look, there's a couple different places to do that. Some of my clients will do it in the morning. For some of you, the reality is it's in the morning. It's no time. I personally like doing stuff midday for me. I take a 2-hour break between 1 and 3 p.m. Eastern. That's my midday break. We're not here to talk about kind of daily game plans in that detail. I like the concept of taking a business day, a tactical day, and breaking them up into 2 mini days. So I have an AM day in essence, and a PM day. And what I want to do in the morning is I want to drive my marketing. Marketing in the morning, admin in the afternoon. So I'm going to drive all my marketing, my meetings, my phone calls, my follow-ups. I want to knock them out before I start touching paper if I can. And then I'll take a 2-hour window. Here's what I would say about exercise routines. I mean, I weight train and I do some cardio and stuff like that. And look, I'm not looking to go run an Ironman or anything crazy like that. I just want to have gas in the tank every day. Because what I do is what you do, by the way. Just everybody on this call, just hear me up on this. There's very little difference what I do and what you do. Okay, you deal with somebody's financial situation. But in essence, you're a coach. You're in a position of influence. You're a change agent for people. And what we've got to recognize is in order to do that, we've got to be at the top of our game. So I would say, one of the best things I would say, again, that personal development budget, we talk about that PD budget, go find yourself a board-certified anti-aging doctor. Here's why. Most doctors, their job is to keep you out of the hospital, or undead, as I like to call it. An anti-aging doctor will actually work on making you healthy. When you're healthy and fit, you make a lot of money in this business. So that's one recommendation I would like to make to everybody.
Super. Well, thank you, Joe, again, for being on the call, and thank you, everybody else, for being on the call, and we will talk to you next Monday. Thanks, everybody.